So excited to have each and every one of you. And thank you again for joining us. I know some of you are finished with testing, some of you are beginning testing and things like that. And you're closing out the school year, but you're also in closing a year, you're also really thinking about beginning another year. And you all hopefully will get a few days in there and have some time, some downtime to kind of do some things for you. But Melissa, I'm going to turn it over to you. We thank you so much for being here with us. You're part of our KUDC Grants family and team, and I'll hush talking so you can take it away and work with these amazing educators that we have. So thank you.
All right, well, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat here our Google Drive, and that has all 3 of the session documents in there that we've been working from. And it also has how you can follow Martin Sisters Publishing on Twitter, Facebook, and also on Instagram. So I have share screen privileges. Let me open up what I need to open up here. Because I did that last time, I forgot to share screen and I was just going on like everything was great. And yeah. So, okay. So today I think, so can everybody see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Good deal. All right. So one of the things that I want to do on this third part is so far we've been doing a lot of listening to me talk. And the last time that we were in here, we got to do some talking to one another. And I think that that's important. So we're going to have a lot of writing exercises today. And I hope that you dig in. I guess the question I would ask is, would you guys rather work individually, or would you rather be broken up into groups and work in groups? I know a memoir is very personal. And today we're going to be doing some outlining and writing. What you could do is, share with each other on the chat. Like if there's somebody you want to ask somebody you have a personal relationship with, or, you could chat that way, or we could put you into groups where you could do this individually. So is there a preference from the collective? The privacy. Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking too. That's, just for the first couple of folks that have responded. So yeah, if you could just let us know if you would rather be put into a group, and maybe if there's 3 or 4 of you that want to do group work, you can do that. So today, the order of your story. So we have learned a lot of different concepts, and we're going to put those on some paper today. So, all right. So you had some decisions to make. You had some things to think about, remember? So are you going to write a full memoir? Is that your goal? Because your outline is going to look a lot different if that's what you're doing. So a full memoir is going to be anywhere from 60,000 to 80,000 words. Or what about a short story? If you think about a short story, anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 words, sometimes 6,000 words, depending. But if you think about a short story, it would be about as long as a chapter that you would write, that you would read in a book of full length, a fully feature novel. Or we talked about those vignettes, that one slice of life that tells your reader something about you in less than 1,000 words. I mean, and I put these numbers up here, not because they're hard and fast rules. It's just generally. So, I mean, if you have a vignette that is 1,500 words or 2,000 words or something like that, that is fine. But it's that one moment in your life that's something that's happening that shows the reader about you, rather than you telling the reader about you. Because we had that exercise last time about, tell me you're a teacher without telling me you're a teacher, kind of thing. So the writing prompt, I need to go back. Hold on. Nope. Okay, that was the second one. Are you going to write in first person? That was it. It was on the bottom. Are you going to write in first person, which is, of course, I, me, we all know what that is, or in second person? And this second person piece is, as if the reader is living the story with you. You know, and it is something like, it's kind of weird to write this way, but it's also kind of mysterious. You know, it's like you're taking a walk with someone. It's like, I'm entering the coffee shop for the first time in 10 years. You know, and you're taking it with you, you're taking the person with you. So that would be the second person. Or do you want to write it in third person? And one of the things that I was studying about yesterday in preparation for this is that, you know, there are memoirists who write in third person, meaning that you're telling a story about yourself, but you are telling it in such a way that you're looking at yourself from kind of like an out-of-body experience. So you're the narrator of your life. The only tricky thing with that is that if you're really crafty about it, people can still tell that it's a memoir about you. But yeah, you can do that. Some people will wonder if it's a novel, though, if you're doing from that third person narrative perspective. So those are the decisions that you need to make. So, you know, what's the point of view of your story? And then are you going to do a full memoir, a short story, or a vignette? So here's some of our writing prompts for today. I'm really excited about these, and we're going to take about 5 minutes to go through each one of these. So, and this is your outline, you know, when you are putting together your story, your memoir about yourself, this is your outline. This is a basic outline. It doesn't mean that there aren't other things that you can include in here, but so showing your character, you, where are you in the world? You know, that's important. Where are you and why are you here? So the inciting incident, we talked a lot about this already. So this can be your opening scene. That one thing that's really going to catch a reader's attention that happened to you or happened, you know, in your presence. Okay. So that inciting incident, we can, you know, talk about that. And that can really just open the scene up. It's almost like, you know, you're bringing somebody with you and you are just flinging the doors open to this scene, this inciting incident. So that could be your first opening. And then your efforts to deal with or rise above the situation. That is what we talked about, like the arc of your story, you know, the setbacks, the complications, whether they're big or whether they're small, and then challenges. And then the major setback, that was the climax. It's like, you almost feel like it's that last straw moment. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the big thing that has happened. Do I feel hopeless? Do I feel victory? Do I feel defeated? And how am I going to react to this big major thing? And then the resolution of the story shows how you grew and changed or how you adapted. And it's about lessons learned. So let's move forward because I've got these broken down one by one. So the story scene or the setup. So where am I at the start of my story? Why am I here? How did I get here? What is my living situation? What relationships are at play? I want you to take 5 minutes and I'll do a timer and let's jot these things down. Or if you've already jotted them down, then enhance them. And what I'd like for you to do is put this in some sort of a form. And also these are on a sheet too in the Google Doc. If you want to open that up, you can work straight from that worksheet if you wanted to. Just download it and start filling it in. To tell us, you know, that fling the door open moment where everybody's going to be like, wow. So where you are, how did you get here? What's your living situation? What are the relationships in the room, or what's going on? What's happening? And draw us into your story with you. So it's 4:10 right now, and I'm going to go ahead and set a timer for 5 minutes, and you guys can go ahead and get started on this first one.
And I'm going to stop recording, and in 5 minutes we'll start back so everybody will have a chance to work. So you all take off, go with it, roll with it.
So that we can see each other. So you remember last week, and I apologize, I do not remember who it was that had that beautiful story. Was it you, Kim Dunn, that had the story about the you know, she described to us a scene and we knew exactly what was happening, even though she didn't tell us what was happening. And then there were a couple of others like that. So did any of you all use that technique to tell us where you are when people just, they open the book and they just fling open the doors and where are they? So let's share some of those if you guys don't mind. This is what we say about teachers. We have teachers with radio people. We have to, or no, not radio people. Teachers have to be comfortable with silence. Radio people, it might as well just be deaf. It's like 3 seconds is everything in radio. But yeah, for a teacher, it's like you just be here all day. So
Which ones did you want to share again?
So, the opening scene, where are you? When are you? It's the piece where you're just opening your story. So where am I at the start of my story? Why am I here? How did I get here? What's my living situation? What relationships are at play? And it also could be that inciting moment with some
Okay.
embellishment.
Well, I did one I can read to you, but it goes in places that, oh, well, do you want me to read mine?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. It's 4:10 in the afternoon and I'm sitting in my office chair preparing for another day. There are lessons to plan and ages to consider. Children love to do the work I assign, but sometimes it's difficult for me to consider every child in the classroom. And when I do, it never fails. Students that I have made special plans for will be absent. Somehow, the students that the class would benefit most from their absences are never absent. Those students will always be in class, disrupting all the plans you have created and railroading your day. I always find myself drawn to those students most. Perhaps it's because I was that student 50 years ago. I was the troubled child that could never stay in her seat. I always needed to exert the most energy when the class was silent. Perhaps those were my scary moments. Perhaps I was not disrupting class intentionally. Perhaps I was actually trying to disrupt my own mind. I was keeping myself active, so there was no time for dark memories to find their way into my memory bank.
That's very good. That's excellent. I can't believe you wrote all that in 5 minutes. It's amazing. That's amazing. So how did that make you feel writing all that down? Do you feel accomplished? Do you feel like, oh my gosh, I could go somewhere with this?
I love writing. I just love it. I love it. I've always wanted to do a book.
Well, it's definitely demonstrated there for sure. You're also a fast writer. So anybody else want to share? If not, that's not. We can move on to the next iteration of this. Let me share again. Like I said, these are also in your all's Google link. Okay, so that's your story setup and that's your scene. Where are you? So then it's the inciting incident. So you've already worked on this a lot. You've already thought about it a lot. So let's take 5 minutes and let's write about the inciting incident. So just like Sharon was just talking about, she's doing all of this, right? She's setting us up. She told us where she is, what's happening, what's in the world around her. Now something is going to happen. Maybe it's that child that disrupts the class. Maybe she's drawn to a specific child. But then there's got to be that moment where something happens. So this is a big part of your outline. So let's do 5 minutes on that. And I'll start the time. Sharing. And let's talk about this inciting incident. So people flung the door open. They saw, your reader flung, open the door. This is where you were. And now you're taking them to this moment where it's this incident that's happening. That's going to help you propel through the rest of your story. So let's talk about that. And you can summarize the first part if you want. Andrew, are you talking to us? No, she's not. Okay. I thought maybe you were just muted and you didn't know. It's okay.
No, I was actually just kind of just rereading what I was saying, and I
Oh.
didn't realize I was moving my lips, so.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure you didn't think you were talking to us. So, so yeah, you can summarize the first part. You can tell us all about the first part, or you can do the second part, because this is your outline. This is however it's going to flow for you. Anyone want to share?
I'm not sure how to break it down into pieces. I just kind of did a free write. And so I'm not real sure how to give you what you're looking for with, I don't know how to pull the pieces out. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, and there's this is, like anything else, this is a structure, this is a skeleton, this is something that you can use. It's a tool that you can use to start to create a story that has that, that moment of we walk in and, the climax or the tension starts to build, and then there's a climax. This is, a way for you to kind of fill in the blanks and create this structure. If your story is structured in such a way that it doesn't require this type of a skeleton, like, we know your story. And for you, I think that the moment that somebody opens the book, it's that moment of where you are, why you're here, what you're doing, and it's also the inciting, or it could be the inciting, or the second piece of it could be, the accident itself. Maybe that's the second piece of it. And that would be kind of like a flashback for you. So this is just a way for you to structure that. But if you think about the pieces of it, that moment that you took us there in the beginning, and then you walk us back to how you got there, maybe that's how you pull that out and deconstruct it.
Possibly, because the first of it is pretty much talking about then how the fraternity brothers moved through the viewing and what that was like, not only for them, but for the people watching them, and such strong young men kind of falling apart. So I'm not sure. And then the next section, I do talk about my son's passing, where he was, what that was like, and how we dealt with that. So, and maybe I've made the first part too long when I'm looking at it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's not, because like, this is an outline. This is, this is what I'm going to put in this section. This is what I'm going to put in this section. And as you go along, when you get to the end, it will change. You'll think to yourself, I put that in that beginning section, but I really think it belongs better here in this climax. So you'll change that. This is just a way to get it into the template, if you will, that arc, the template that we started out with.
Okay.
My favorite thing about listening to somebody write, I was watching an interview with Fanny Flagg, and she was talking about writing Fried Green Tomatoes. And she said that she writes all these little snippets out, and that she would hang them on a clothesline until she decided that's how she would move them around to figure out where they went.
I love that. And I love that book, and I love that movie. And it's just, when you if you read the screenplay, because it has a screenplay too, which is amazing, because it's like, why would anybody buy a screenplay to read it? But it is so good. It just like shows that opening scene. And that's so interesting. I also read about an author that did like index cards like that. It's like she hangs them up on a clothesline. That's brilliant, because in that way you can just move them around. And I can't remember if I showed you this in the very beginning class or not, but some people write like that, and it kind of looks like one of those, CSI criminology boards, where they say who's connected to who and who's connected to who. And it can look like that too, because you can't forget, And with a memoir, it's a lot less easy to forget who has a relationship with who, because it's real. But in novel writing, it's a lot different because you've got to remember that someone said this thing to someone else, or someone did this thing to someone else. And so it starts to look like it's like your main character is in the middle and it has all of these little lines that are drawn out to it. But yeah, I love that. And I'm like you too. I like hearing about what other people's processes are. So we'll move on from that if you're ready. Okay, so inciting incident, and we have spent a lot of time on this because it's very important. Okay. All right, then the next piece, the obstacles. What are the obstacles? So the setbacks, the challenges, the disappointments, even things like betrayals. What's the twist? That have an effect on you in some way. So in thinking about that next step, so, you've shown us where you are, then there's an inciting incident. It can be positive, it can be negative. It doesn't always have to be negative, but then start to talk about the setbacks and the challenges and disappointments that arise from that inciting incident. So a lot of different layers to how we all deal with whatever that inciting incident might be. So let's take 5 minutes and we'll do this exercise, and then let's come back and talk about this one. Things that you had to deal with. Things that you had to deal with after that inciting incident. Talk about those things. How you unraveled it all. Thinking about what were the obstacles, the disappointments, the twists that affected you in some way. So I guess an example I could give and share, and I'm going to use you again because you shared on the first one, is like, for example, we flung open the door, we saw where she was, and then she, maybe in the second piece, it's just one child who's being disruptive, and then she starts to unravel that piece of why this child is being disruptive, and maybe it's something more serious than what she thought. So what obstacles, it's like, I'm an educator, what am I supposed to do? Those kinds of things.
That's kind of where I was going with this. And this isn't all true. I'm just kind of writing it as we go along.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want me to, I'll read it because nobody shared in the second section. And then I just got the third section.
Yeah, that's perfect. And the other thing is like, remember how in the last session we talked about that if there is, it doesn't have to be a memoir. If you come up with a character and it's not, and we all have FERPA agreements, if you describe somebody well enough, people are going to know who you're talking about. So it could be that the memoir that you're trying to write actually becomes a novel. And we talked about the author that I have who, Amy Red Hill, who is a social worker. She can't write about those kids, so it was like a mishmash of a lot of different kids with a lot of different problems rolled into this one girl. So anyway, I've said too much. I'm talking too much. You go ahead.
Suddenly it occurred to me the disruptive students and I have in my class may be trying to interrupt their own memory banks. With that in mind, I keep my lessons short for the next day. I realize that, like myself, the children that are troubled in class are probably not going to open up about what they are experiencing that bothers them. But I want to give every child a moment to spend with me individually that may need a moment of support and love. Those are the children that I would like to inspire the most because I didn't have the inspiration when I was their age. Maybe with a little extra attention, they will realize that someone loves them, someone wants them to succeed. And then this was the one for the one we just did. There is one student that I have in mind. Charlie is in my 3rd grade class. He is dirty, quiet, and always looks down towards his feet when he enters. It is no secret that Charlie must have a rough home life. He seems to lack self-confidence and wants to go unnoticed. Suddenly, my goal shifts from trying to make lesson plans to trying to find a way to reach Charlie. How will I help to build his spirit so that he realizes how valuable he is?
Yeah, so good. Obstacles, twists, Yeah, there's a twist there. You know, part of those obstacles, she didn't tell us what she was going to do about them, just that they exist. He's dirty, he's not cared for, he has low self-esteem. So this one's fair. Does anyone else want to share what you've been thinking? What are the twists and turns? What's a summary of where you are up until this point?
I can share mine. I just kind of sat down and just wrote it all out. It's a little emotional because I'm gonna keep my camera off.
That's fine. That's the way
Okay.
it should be. It's a memoir.
I'm awakened from what seems to be a long, tiresome nap. I look around. I'm alone in a cold hospital room surrounded by 4 white walls. The only object in the room I can identify is the clock. It's a little after 6 p.m. Terror sets in. Why is it 6 p.m.? I was supposed to be awake by 10 a.m. What happened? My mind turns for the worse. Am I alive? What is this tube doing down my mouth? I yell for help, but the tubes are in the way. Nothing but a loud groan comes out. Tears begin to roll down my face. A nurse finally hears the sheer panic. She yells for my mom. She's awake. I began to try to move the tube so I could speak. What happened? I try to say. My mother runs in rushing to my side, telling me to leave my tubes alone. She stroked my hair and assured me I was going to be okay. She says, the doctors lost the stent inside of you. It was an accident, and you had to have emergency open heart surgery. How can this be? My world will be forever changed. Will I ever be back to my 13-year-old self again? Will I ever get back on the basketball court? My season had just ended early. Will it ever begin again? They told me it would be a simple surgery. People have this procedure every day. How could this happen to me? I was just a kid playing with my best friend and my brother in our hotel room pool last night. Will I have a huge scar to cover up? All these questions come to my mind, but I'm still unable to put out words. What happens next is quite possibly the most painful and scariest experience I've ever suffered so far in my 13 years of life.
Wow. That's really great, Sierra. So yeah, it's like, and you did that really awesome second person thing. You took us,
Yeah.
we were there with you, and that
Yeah.
is so interesting. I love that. Not often people do that. And as you can see, I've been trying to describe it this whole time, but when you did it, we can all see how powerful that is. We're there with you.
I still see that in my mind so many years later, like just experienced it like it was yesterday.
Yeah. And how terrifying for a child. So it's from the perspective of the child, which I'm sure your perspective will change as the story goes on into adulthood. But yeah, it's really, really great. And you went right into the opening scene, and then you went into the climate or the barriers, the obstacles that you have to overcome. So you did it, you covered all that, the opening, the inciting incident, you covered the barriers and obstacles, all those things. You've got it laid out before us. And then that climax moment of your mom telling you what happened. So everything that happens beyond that or after that could be told in a flashback of how you got there. It could be told in, real time, all the different things that have affected you because of this. So anybody else want to share? Yeah, that's true, Lauren. You can feel the emotions bringing us straight to the moments, Robin. So, go ahead and hit share screen again. Okay, so the climax, the darkest moment. So that's what we're gonna cover, and I'm not gonna like do this in 5 minutes again, but just know that this is what's gonna come next when you're starting to do writing. What was that darkest moment? It's the hardest challenge, the overwhelming obstacle, that big thing. And that's gonna be when we remember that peak, you're right there at the top of that peak, when you're at the climax. Then, beyond that, it's how are you changed by this? So, in what ways is this going to change, bring about change? Not every story, obviously, not every story has a happy ending, but you have a moment where you learn to be this new person in this new way because of the inciting incident and the thing that happened to you. You learn how to be this new person. So the other thing is that I would say, and also in your outline, so all of this, and I think where we are. Yeah. So all of this to say that this is your outline. It can be your story structure. And so as you start to build this out and you have these 5, 6, or 7 pieces, the other things that you need to do is just start to make a list of things that have happened to you that are not related to this inciting incident. Because throughout your day, your normal everyday life, funny things happen to you, right? Poignant things happen to you. People say things to you that are odd and out of context. So make a list of those things that have happened to you, because you're going to need a sprinkling of these day-to-day activities. Because as you can see, you could probably tell your story in these 5 or 6 scenes or less, right? But you need these everyday things that shows that you are not just a victim of a botched surgery, that you're so much more than that. It gives you dimension when you're interacting with other people day to day and you're writing these things down. It shows that you're so much more than just this thing that happened to you. Because how often do we hear victims and people who are talking about, what happened at that inciting moment, that they become, that's how people recognize them, So make sure that you're peppering those in throughout. And it could be that you just have a long, exhaustive list and you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to throw that in here. Now, one of the things that I learned when I was in my master's program in a creative writing class was that when we think about a memoir, you don't have to have every single incident happening to you in exactly the chronological way that it happened. Okay. You can take all these incidents because, you may have 5 huge moments in your life of, from that surgery, Sierra, from that botched surgery. Maybe something happens to you when you're 20 and something also happens to you when you're 25, and then so on and so forth. You're not going to wait that long swath of time to tell that story. You're going to start to push those things together, and that's perfectly okay. You should do that, and that's what all memoirists and all autobiographers do, is that. So what questions do you all have for me? We've got about 10 minutes. Something that I would suggest, if you're going to do this, if you're going to write this story, is to make sure that you give committed time. So decide, are you the kind of person that needs these large chunks of time, or can you write a few minutes every day? I would also encourage you to shut everything down and commit to whatever you have decided that you will do. You'll be surprised at how much you can get done in such a small amount of time. Also, I would suggest to consider what many authors do, and that is voice to text dictation. It seems awkward at first, voice to text, but like you're taking a walk, record it on your iPhone, and then you can come back and you can download it into a program. I use a program called Dragon Naturally Speaking, and I will put that on the site. And what you can do is, what I do is, like, I just record it into my phone if I'm out walking around, and then I email the recording to myself, And then when I put it into Dragon Naturally Speaking, it's just like, it's a miracle. It just types it all up. Now it's ugly, it's awful, it's unformatted. Unless you're really good at doing the dictation piece of it, which is like period, end quote, begin quote, you got to do all those things. And I'm not very good at that, but I have the words down there and that helps me a great deal whenever I'm trying to sit down and start to write something. So I think the program, I think I paid like $112 for it. Well worth it if you can use it. If you're just walking around the house, you can also use Microsoft Word because it doesn't require anything, but you have to be like near your computer. So if you're up doing something, you're in the kitchen, you're working, you can talk and it will record you and it'll do that text thing. And that is free if you have Microsoft Word. So those are some things that I would suggest. The other thing that I would say, because this is our last session together, or maybe our last session together, we don't know, but is that don't pay anyone to publish your book ever. Okay, don't do that because there are publishers out there. You submit, the person who or the publishing company or the agent or whoever falls in love with your story it will be well worth it. You need someone else to invest in your story. Too often creative people just think that whatever that they're creating is not worthy of investment, but it absolutely is. So don't pay for publishing ever. Just keep shopping around and look. So what questions do you guys have for me? And is there anybody who wants to share? Like, for example, are you going to write a book of vignettes? Are you going to write a whole memoir? Are you going to write a short story? Let's talk about that for a minute. And what are our next steps? Do we move together as a full group of 60, 80, or 100 people? Or, are we going to, branch off into groups of 10 people here and 5 people here and, do those kinds of things? So what is your wish? What do you want from this?
How do you find publishers that will publish your book?
Well, it used to be really easy, but now it's more difficult because Random House there used to be a book called Writer's Market, and Writer's Market listed all the publishers, everyone that was listed. I'm in there too. I'm listed in there too, but now Random House bought it. And I think it's a subscription service now. You have to pay for a subscription service, but look for Writer's Market. And yeah, look at that. You can also look online, and you can Google it, of course, Google's always there. So I love working with teachers. Teachers are amazing. I always say that.
So do you just send a bunch of your manuscripts out to different publishers and wait to hear if one is going to take it?
So that's the next step is like, they'll tell you what they want. So like, for example, they'll ask for a query letter. A query letter is a summary about, this is my book. This is why I'm the best person to write it. This is how many words it is, and so you'll submit a query first. And then if they're interested, they'll send something back and say, can you send me the first 3 chapters? Or can you send me a synopsis? So it's like you find yourself writing and rewriting your story in so many different versions and so many different ways that you have like just at your fingertips. It's like, oh, I have a synopsis. Oh, I have a query letter. And some people want all 3 chapters. Publishers do ask for a marketing plan now. They just basically want to know, it's like while you don't need to pay for publishing, you need to work hard when you get your book published so that you're out there. It's not one of these businesses anymore where you can just write a book and sit back and just watch the cash flow come in. Even if you're with Random House or one of the big 5 publishers, they expect you to get out and do some promotion of your own work. It's just an expectation. So some people will ask for a marketing plan. Right now I'm working, I said I love to work with teachers and I do. I have 2 teachers. Let me pull these up here and I'll show you. I just was a keynote for one of my teachers at a high school in Georgia. I'm sorry, Tim, I'm going to screen share one more time. Yeah. Okay. So, So this is one of my teachers that I work with. She's very young teacher, or she was a very young teacher. I don't know what young is, but anyway, she wrote this trilogy, and it's called the Forget Me Not trilogy. And she's a school teacher in forget the name of the school now, in Gwinnett County, Georgia. Can't think of the name of it, but anyway, so this is her trilogy, and she's working on another trilogy. Again, I love working with school teachers because you're willing to learn. I think that's the biggest thing. I think I told you in the beginning, I very much dislike working with lawyers, and I very much dislike working with college professors. So another school teacher that I work with is Darlene Campbell. She's actually from Kentucky. She's from Adair County. And she wrote the book called Touched. And she's right now doing her second book for us. And it's called Looking for Pork Chop McQuaid. What have you done now, Rosie Put? What have you done now, Rosie Put? It's a story about three sisters who they kill one of the sisters' husbands, and they hide the body. It's kind of comical. But so yeah. And also I'm working with another teacher right now. We're getting ready to publish her book. Her name is Sarah Holyneck, and I don't have a cover or anything yet because the book isn't published. But she is writing a book called A Sisterhood on Fire, and she's a Catholic school teacher. And she's writing about what happened years ago whenever a monastery caught fire, and they were going to just not rebuild, and they were just going to, all these women who had lived together and worked together all their lives, they were going to disperse them into different areas, and they ended up rebuilding. And so that's a really good story, but she fictionalized it, even though it's a true account. So writer's market, is it free? No, it's not. It used to be. Publishers would pay to be listed in writer's market, and then the people looking for the publishers accessed it for free, which was wonderful. But now they've got it paid on both ends. So the publishers have to pay to be listed in it, and the people who are subscribing to it yes, it's a membership. Yeah. So where do we go from here? Tell me in the chat, what are you going to do? What are your plans to write? Are you going to breathe a sigh of relief after this semester is over and say, you know what, I'm going to dig in and get this done? So.
Absolutely, Melissa. I really, and you all in listening, and Kim, thank you again for sharing this week, and Heartfelt, Sierra, Sharon, all of you. And I know just sitting and listening, you all have stories to tell. So as Melissa said, y'all need to get rid of that self-doubt about, can you do this? Yes, you can do this. So, and you should do this. So you all absolutely should really consider what Melissa said. And Melissa, we do want to continue this partnership. We don't want to start this very important work and then just stop after 3 sessions. So because we're building and we're growing and we're learning as we go, or I am, but people, you can do this. So, get rid of that doubt and just roll with it. If you all have any questions whatsoever, we're here. We'll hang on. Jamie is going to post the evaluation in the chat. It's right nearing 5 o'clock. But again, thank you all so much for what you do. And again, you do have important stories to tell, and people want to hear them. So, Melissa, anything else that you would like to add, or?
No, I think that I've gotten everything on there. I encourage everyone. It's like, I know I'm here as a publisher, but I'm not here to solicit work from you. I'm here to teach you. I tell every author who comes to me, I want you to exhaust all of the big guys first. You try to find that publisher that's going to invest $100,000 in your story and marketing. Do that first. I am a home for authors who have exhausted those resources and they want to find a home for their work. So, but bottom line is, don't ever pay anybody to publish your work. That is predatory. So, but yeah, I think that's all. And I have really loved working with you guys. And I'm a firm believer that anybody can write their story. So. Oh, my email?